Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. Afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and to share their experience and knowledge with you. I hope you enjoy it. Right on. Joshua Myers, thank you for being with me. Thank you for being on the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, considering what kind of a remarkable experience you have. The podcast will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you know that this was the way to go? So, tell us what you do for a living.
Well, I'm an English teacher. That's the simple way to say it. I think more detail would be that I am a coach in helping people to use English. I live in Brazil, but I'm from the United States of America. And I help people to advance their abilities using English for many types of communication. A lot of my clients are executives, and they are very interested in advancing their skills with business and travel. I also have many students who are interested in just travel. Some just want to enjoy watching Netflix and understand better, or have always had the dream of improving their English. Here in Brazil, English is, of course, the other most popular language, but it's still not extremely common. So it's a little bit of an elite ability. And so people really want to improve English. And it's a little bit of a niche market here in Brazil. When the economy is a little down, English is still up. And in that case, I guess I could say I'm very lucky that that's what I do here.
Not to
And
mention, as a native speaker, you basically have all the tips and tricks you can share with them. So, that's pretty great. And how did you get there? This is going to be a little bit of a longer segment because
sure.
I really wanted you to cover the road from the United States to Brazil. How did it all happen?
hmm Well, I think a good place to start is to say that I've lived here for almost 10 years now. So it's
Wow.
actually quite a while that I've lived here. And I came here because my wife is from here and actually from the town that I live in. So we moved to her hometown in 2013. And I suppose that you're really interested in how did I get into teaching English?
Yeah.
That's really the more complicated story. So let me paraphrase from the beginning. I started work as a very young man. I was in a situation where I needed to work in order to help my family because I'm from a very, very poor family. And actually, I started working at age 11 after school. I know it's illegal, but needed to, and I wanted to. And so, always very motivated to work. I worked with many different things. I started working with wood, cabinetry, making furniture, cleaning the shop, but working with tools. My grandfather and my father were both carpenters, and this came naturally to me. I then started to work in restaurants, and I really enjoyed this food, the idea of wine, even as a young person. This romanticism around restaurants was fascinating to me. And it was also a very good opportunity to make money, as I lived in a prestigious region of California called Napa Valley. And so I started working in restaurants as a teenager, but then continued working in restaurants for over 20 years. Most of the time, I was in management position. And I think the reason, because I can communicate very well and have a high standard of work ethic. So I was thrust into management positions all through my career in restaurants. And during this time, to get to the point of your question, during this time, I had a lot of responsibility to improve the service of the restaurant as the floor manager, for example. The service standards needed to be kept and maintained or improved. I also had a tendency to work really well with employees to help them to achieve higher levels of service, earning a higher wage or a lot more tips from the guests. And this they were very interested in. I
Yeah.
would think I was passionate to actually help them to understand how to make people happy, which was the way to make themselves happy. complicated ideas related to wine and food, how they work together, service standards. I was able to communicate things very clearly and very efficiently in a way that they could remember. And I was very successful at improving service standards in the restaurants that I worked at. I left the restaurant business, I think back in about 2006, 2007, and I went directly into the wine business and wine service specifically. So, as a front man, I would, I guess you'd say, give tours or give explanations and tastings of wine. And this was similar, but it was more one on one with the client than as a manager in a restaurant. And I furthered my education with this. All through the restaurant business, I went to university and achieved a master's in business level education. And then I went on further to achieve several associate degrees in things like wine marketing, viticulture, enology, and also certified specialist of wine and sommelier certifications because of my business in wine. This gave me opportunity to share lots of information with people, but again, efficiently helping people to understand complicated ideas. And this is where I met my wife in California at a very famous winery called Castello di Amoroso, and owned by a celebrity man named Dario Satui, who was always family friends because he comes from where I come from. And I did very well here. And Alini and I were married and lived there and worked together at the castle for 5 years, and then decided to move to Brazil permanently. I left the wine business and came to Brazil without really knowing what I would do. As I'm
But you knew
getting
the
to the,
language, right?
I did not know Portuguese very well. That is true. And this, I don't know that I could say it was a problem, but it created barriers for me. And I did my own studies. I had a tutor, and being immersed in the culture, you can just absorb things, I think, more quickly this way. And I do speak Portuguese pretty well. People are often surprised, especially friends I haven't seen for a year at a barbecue or in my office. Wow, Joshua, your Portuguese has improved so much. I think a lot of that comes from interacting with students and using English a lot and thinking of how it's communicated in Portuguese back and forth. Doing English helps me a lot with Portuguese. However,
Absolutely.
when I arrived in 2013, I didn't know what I would do. I thought perhaps I would open a little restaurant. Makes sense. There's not really a winery culture here. And but my wife suggested we open a flower shop, a nursery and flower shop. So I put a lot of work into building the structure and building this. And my wife built the business, and I built the structure and did lots of hard work. I like getting my hands in the dirt and working. That's also something I like. But immediately, people came and asked, does this American man have conversations in English and receive money for this? Can I pay him to talk to me in English? I need to practice. And of course, I said, sure, I'm willing to do anything to help, pay for my family's needs.
Yeah.
And this developed very quickly. Immediately, I'm saying to my clients, I'm not an English teacher. I'm a wine teacher, and I can teach about service and food. I have high level education in these things, but not in English. In university, I did minor in English, so I'm qualified to be a university English teacher with some other certifications, of course. But I'd never been an English teacher. But my grandmother was an English professor, and I grew up at a high level English standard because of this. This kicked in very quickly for me, like an expertise almost, similar to what I would call expertise in the wine or the food business. And I researched very efficiently, and I started to make sure they had all the information they needed quickly, and that they could have accurate information, essentially teaching myself. Within a year, we were doing very well with just having English conversations, not on the side of the nursery and flower shop. Just under 2 years after opening the flower shop, we sold it and opened up new offices only for teaching English. And my wife was really good with basic students. And with my limitation of Portuguese, I could only really help more executive and more advanced students. Over the last 7, 8 years of only doing English now, I'm a lot more proficient with Portuguese, and my clients range a lot more in their abilities with English. My approach to English has been the same as it was with the restaurant business and the wine business, and that is to efficiently explain things and provide, I guess you'd say, support and supplemental homework, so forth, to reinforce gradual and specific growth and make patterns of these with my students. It's very efficient, interestingly. My business is called English Express because the idea, and it is delivering, is like a fast lane to English. And students are just able to come to my school, start out with zero, graduate with professors, and leave in a year or 18 months, able to go and pass a test that they need to, or do an interview that they need to and advance their career. And this is really exciting because in Brazil, it can take 5 to 10 years to get the same level of effect and the same level of confidence with English that my students can have in less than 2 years. And this is a reputation that has been spreading and building, and my business is expanding because of this. And it's a really exciting thing to see. And I'm very proud of the work I've done and happy that it's so popular.
You have
I'd
every
like
reason to be proud of this because it's quite a journey. I really loved when you said that you started working young, and when you highlighted that your father and your grandfather were carpenters, isn't it remarkable to see how the people that are closest to us can be very good examples? Because when you have that kind of an example, you see the man of the home working hard and with his hands and everything. And basically, the child, children are like sponges, right? Because they absorb
Mhm.
everything they see. And you grew up seeing your grandfather and your father. You grew up seeing your grandmother having this high level of English speaking and stuff like that. It's remarkable to see what kind of an impact that had on you, and it's really admirable, and it's just pretty solid. I couldn't be more honored than words are escaping, but you get the point. But yeah, it's just great to see it because. Uh, Rarely we don't really get a lot of examples like that. We really don't, for one reason or another, and it's troublesome. And this isn't only in the U.S. This isn't only in Europe. It tends to be worldwide, and it's damaging. Uh,
I have the opportunity to pass this on, as you mentioned, that children are like sponges, and that parents are, you know, can be very good examples in some cases. And I hope to be. I have two children, ages 7 and 9, and they really see their mother working hard and their father working hard. Mother and father are divorced. I've divorced with my wife 2 years ago, but we remain business partners. We work together every day. And in that sense, I not only have a really wonderful dream partner in the business, but a really wonderful dream divorce because my wife is my best friend. She's like a sister, and she's the parent, the mother of my children, and very good examples, I think,
I
that we're
think this is a
providing for the
remarkable
children.
example because but I'm the only person in my family who hasn't went through a divorce yet because I'm not married.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, smart. So
Well, obviously, divorce is never an easy thing, but
no,
I
it
would
isn't.
say
But
I'm
it's
so
great.
lucky.
It's great for the children to see that they're not growing into this hell, right? Because they see their father, they see their mother, they have the example. Yeah, okay, sure, it didn't work out, but stuff like that happen. But they will not go through the hell that a lot of people are going through, which is perfect for them.
I,
And
I, yeah, and all the respect to my ex-wife. as she is completely appropriate about the ex-husband and the children, and the example that we provide working together with the business and the children is really, I think, an icon in this local community. And as a business ex-married business partner couple, we're a little bit of a pillar in this community. People see this as an example of what they could be if they were divorced, or what they should be if they are divorced. And I hope that that too makes some little difference in the local community around us. People talk about it. Makes me
I'm
feel
pretty sure
proud.
it will make a difference. There's now you're having a little bit of a larger range. So, and this is what, because the whole point of my podcast is to provide examples, and you're a perfect example in that. And that leads me to the third question: how did you knew that this was the way to go? And the reason I'm asking is because you've noticed, I'm certain that you've been having those issues in the United States as well. People tend to go to colleges, universities, chasing the degree, literally chasing the degree, because they're left with the impression that they should have one. And I'm not
Mm,
against academic studies at all. I
mm,
myself went to university, so and it
mhm,
was pretty good.
mm,
So I really adore the fact that you started when you were young, when you were 11 years old. I adore the fact that you've already had the work ethics inside you before you went to the university, and that's perfect. Because if it was the other way around, you would
mhm,
have been 20 something years old, bachelor
mhm.
or master or whatever, and you wouldn't be having a minute of experience, which is a problem because at this point, to create a proper ethic and a proper habit is a little bit more difficult than when a young person is. There is this
Very well said.
saying
Agreed.
that when you blacksmith the iron, it has to do it when it's soft, right? And it's the same with humans when they, yeah, you gotta give them those values when they're young. So I
Agreed.
really love that about you. So, and I really wanted to know your take on how did you knew that this was the way to go with the English school. You already touched it that it's basically a niche, so it was circumstantial.
Number one, yes, it's a niche. It's a
Yeah,
hot topic. This industry is very convoluted in Brazil. There are online classes. You can have presential classes, group classes, individual classes. But the schools, whether online or even presential, they're focused on collecting money over a long period of time.
yeah,
and and the service business, my attitude was always make people happy, and this brings them back to the restaurant. And the more they come back and they buy little bit by little bit, the more money, the more success, and the more happiness. Everybody wins. and
yeah,
uh, and in the wine business, the same thing. I don't need to push somebody to buy more wine just so I have a little bit more that day in my sales. I want the more sales. I want to be the top salesperson. Yes, but I also want people to be happy and excited to come back, to be thinking about the winery, to be thinking about the wine for weeks and months. Can't wait to get back to the winery and buy another bottle. The more they do that, the more success for the winery and the more happiness for the client. This essentially is what happened to me with English. To answer your question about how did I know that this was the thing for me to do here? What thrust me? What put me in this position is happiness, satisfaction, and the exchange between the client happiness and my personal satisfaction. Now, money's important.
yeah,
I was poor, so I know what it's like to be without, and I worked really hard and had money. I know what it's like to have it too. And, the money is not the most important thing to me. My mother always said, find something you love to do, and the money will come to you. Don't worry about that. Worry about being happy, because that's the most valuable currency in this universe. And I truly believe that. And when
yeah,
I'm entertaining a new client, I don't necessarily tell them that directly, but I'm working on that. I want them to feel comfortable and excited about what the potential is for them in my office. I want to capture that client, but my focus is not to take their money. My focus is to provide them the feeling of being at the salon. Or like us men, we like to go to the sauna. And when we walk in, we feel different than when we walked out.
Yeah.
And if I can create that effect, then they're going to be a healthier person in their regular lives. And if that can also create a benefit that advances their lives, particularly with English in this case, or wine knowledge in the past, or these restaurant experiences before that, if these people can advance and have a more excitement in their life, more self-respect, more confidence, especially with English, then it's not just happiness, it's building life skills, and these are lasting forever. Even if they can't remember me or they don't remember the name of my school, they're going to remember moments they had. And this is timeless. And to me, it just gets me. When I watch people walk out, sometimes I know that they're coming back with more excitement each time. And this feeds not an ego, it feeds a type of
No, it's not an
necessity.
ego because you already have it in you. So when you love something that you're doing, your mother was absolutely right, by the way. Because when you love it and you truly are loving it, I can see that you don't really exhaust yourself because it's not exhausting. You don't really spend so much energy on doing it because this is something that generates energy for you, and this is basically how you're being charged, which is absolutely great. I also love it when you said that you're basically providing them with this kind of a service, and you have a visible and pretty good result for the 12, 18 months, which is perfect. And this is one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why I wanted you here, because isn't it nice to see a private company doing this, doing something pretty good, pretty remarkable, pretty solid for a short period of time. Well, if they have to go to school I'm not insulting anything or anyone, but let's be fair. If you have to go to the government school in Brazil to learn English, you're gonna lose about 5 or 6 years. I don't think the results will be the same. So it's better to save some time. And when I had to make the Twitter account, the Twitter and the Gap account for the podcast, you know that there are like 100 syllables you can use as a description. So the only description I saw it as a fit one was time's the only resource we can't allow to lose, right? Because we've lost friends, money, loved ones, uh, a key holder or something. So I still haven't gotten over my key holder. So jokes aside, but we can't afford to lose a lot of time because this is a resource we can't get back. When you lost it, it's lost, and that's that. So it's pretty good to see the difference between the private sector and the government sector and the end result, which is, I mean, noticeable.
And to highlight a couple of things you said that fit back to your question, how did I get here? Passion. That's what took me away from whatever I could do and put me in the restaurant business in the first place, was this energy that I felt there and this passion I had for the type of exchange of energy going on, resulting from wine and food and people. And they come to be entertained and they come to have memories created. And in the wine business, they come for the wine because it's romantic and they want to create memories. In the restaurant, they want to advance their knowledge about food. In the winery, they want to advance their knowledge about wine because that's an important thing in their life. That's why they're there. So when they come to me in my office, they come to advance their levels of skills in English. And in all cases, if I was able to provide high level entertainment and education combined, this is the type of education and memory building that happens very quickly with a high level satisfaction. And so that is the same theme that I have going on in my career today. It has really not changed. It's only changed the medium. It's only changed the topic range. And English is something I've always been very passionate about. It comes from my grandmother. And to see other people passionate about something I am passionate about creates a synergy. A nexus can happen there. And so that's what brought me to doing English instead of something else. There's other things I can do here to survive and be successful. But that energy, that synergy, and that nexus between myself and a client is what has driven me here and what keeps me here and what just helps me to grow more and more each day.
That's absolutely perfect. I've always been very fascinated by English as well. My biggest issue with English was because when I was younger, we had to have those out of school activities. So I was in a theater, and we had to play
Hmm.
Romeo and Juliet. And the Shakespearean English was so difficult.
Yeah.
I really had a hard time. But after that, after we did that one, uh, things kind of went easy on that topic. So it was really something. And I
Yeah.
like
It's
the fact that, again, to repeat myself, you really did had that work ethic imprinted on you when you were that young. And it's when you said, well, you're doing it in the same way, and only the only the name is being changed, right? You're not in the restaurant, you're not in the one, you're in the English. But that go get 'em attitude is once you have it in you, nobody can take that from you. You can be fired, you can be reallocated and said, but once you have that, you can never actually escape from it, and it's perfect.
Yeah, like you said before too, uh, children like a sponge, and
Yep.
I believe that a lot of my work ethic and my enthusiasm for work and success to advance out of my position as it was, this comes from my grandfather specifically. My grandmother was a huge impression on me because she was a highly professional, accredited woman, and my father worked so hard to provide, and my mother, she did many things actually in terms of work, but she gave me such a moral compass, such a high level sensibility about things, while others provided professionalism to me and work ethic. My mother gave me this identity of the importance of feeling the passion for what I do. In some ways, that might be the most important part of why I have this success. And that would be because my mother gave that to me. I learned other things from others, but my mother gave me this passion, the ability to recognize that nexus, that synergy that I was talking about with my clients.
Absolutely. I did have that example in home as well, but when I was in college, we had this unspoken rule that the tutors actually went easy on you if you were working because we studied economics and we had that mentality that why are you studying economics if you're not even working? So you can't survive only with a diploma. So we had to work, and I worked as a bartender. And I'm never going
Yeah.
to forget one time when because the professors actually knew where we were working, so they were checking on us, and they're having notes to improve ourselves from a client perspective, for which of course I'm grateful, because it was pretty good of them. And there was one time when a professor called me in front of 150 people. I was like, I went to Denny. I was a bartender, so I went to Denny to see him at the bar. It was disgusting. His shoes were dirty and he had beard. And I was like, okay, first of all, I wasn't aware that I was supposed to be shaving every day, and it was raining outside, so that's why my shoes were dirty. And he said something that stayed with me all those years. It was like, yeah, but it's raining for all of us, but only your shoes were dirty, right? So you should have taken that into account. And stop looking like a homeless person. Shave. Ever since that, I'm always clean shaved. You cannot find a single picture of me where I'm not shaved.
I noticed this.
So every time, and that's
Good thing I did okay today then.
you're fine, you're perfect. So and this kind of an additional put, and I was in front of 150 people. I was 17 or 18, and
Hmm.
you can only imagine how I felt because I wasn't a kid, but I was pretty young. Like okay, fine, I got you. So every time my shoes are shine and I'm always clean shaved. That kind of stayed with me absolutely.
Yeah, it says a lot about the person you are. I think is what he was trying to say. In other words, you are what you are, and you
Yeah,
look on the outside much like you are on the inside. And there is overwhelming evidence, proof of this. If depression creates ugliness, and satisfaction and confidence creates beauty in your presentation, and it comes out not just in your clothing, it could come out in your appearance, your smile, the brightness of your eyes. And it's really good that you would say this, that the impressions come to you when you least expect them. And if they
absolutely.
are important and you can identify they're important, they never leave you. They are permanent impressions. And our lives are full of these permanent impressions. And not to
Another
get back
thing
to
that
me, but
stayed
that's
with
it.
me when I said that story is, and I actually applied it all the time. Like my shoes were dirty because it was raining. Well, it was raining for everybody, but only your shoes were dirty. And it's the same thing with the COVID situation here. Right? Well, we have an economic troubles, but the whole world has them.
Yeah,
But only you're complaining about it. So do something about
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
that kind of a mentality really boosted me up, and it was pretty something. And with that said, do you happen to have any advice for the viewers, for the young people who just started working, for people who wanted to change their career or something? If you have something.
I do. I think immediately comes to mind something my mother would always say, because she said many things, enough to have something for every occasion. My mother, she told me this so many times. Joshua, follow your dreams, but only follow them as far as opportunity crosses your path. And when opportunity crosses your path, follow opportunity and create new dreams. Because if you only follow your dreams and you don't pay attention to opportunity crossing your path, you might not ever realize your dreams and you will miss out on all those opportunities.
That's so deep. I don't even know what to say. That's remarkable. Perfect advice. With that says, Joshua, thank you for being here and thank you for taking off time to hear me out and to share your knowledge and experience with
Thank you, Denny.
everybody.
What an honor to be asked to be here. Thank you for hosting me, and it's been a pleasure to share a little bit of my life with you.
Pleasure's all mine, and so Ziana. Thank you again. Have a nice day.
Thank you, and
Bye.
you.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Gap, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.